Welcome back to another episode of Game Time Discussions, guys. My name is Cameron Selby here with Emory Cuzzy. Today we are going to do our first ever Mock the Mock. Two of the best in the business, Mel Kiper Jr. from ESPN, Daniel Jeremiah from NFL.com and NFL Network, just came out with their mocks yesterday, and we're going to go through, break down a little bit, and give a little bit of our thoughts on what they're thinking of post-combine.
Yeah, and we'll preface it. We want to make sure that we talk about the fact that we're looking for position over player. So sometimes you might get the same position, but it's a different name that comes down. We just want to make sure that, the player matters. We're going to see some crazy things happen at the end of these mocks. Daniel Jeremiah is going to have trades, and Mel Kiper's is going to be straightforward. But yeah, there's a lot of fun things to talk about. Like Cam said, it's our first ever Mock the Mock, so we have been looking forward to doing this for a while. So yeah, here we go. All right, starting off with the Chicago Bears, number 1 overall pick. Chicago's been on the clock for a little while now. They got the trade from Carolina Panthers, so both Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper go quarterback. We're gonna go through this 1 through 5, and then 6 through 10, slowly going through. But they both go quarterback. Caleb Williams. We've been talking about that being the right pick this whole time. But I think we probably need to preface that with the quarterback situation that was going on in this whole time with Justin Fields.
Right. So at this point, the first pick is the easiest pick to mock in everybody's mock, whoever you want to look at. I mean, we just saw Justin Fields move to Pittsburgh. So now Chicago is basically opened the door that they are absolutely taking Caleb Williams. We even saw Keenan Allen show up at his pro day. It's happening. Draft starts at number 2. Let's move on. Not much to talk about. We can talk about intangibles, rumors, all we want to, but Caleb Williams to Chicago is happening, and now we're on the clock with Washington in my eyes.
Yeah, I agree that Caleb Williams should be number 1 overall. That's the right pick. It's been the right pick. It just took a little bit of time for everybody to kind of sort through if their other quarterbacks were there.
The one thing I will add is that I've seen somebody like RG3 who's saying that, suggesting maybe pulling Eli Manning. I understand the premise of that to an extent at times, but we also have not seen a rookie quarterback walk into a skill position situation like this before.
Right.
And we can't look at, Sid Luckman we haven't had a quarterback as good as Sid Luckman over 50 years ago. Can't always look at that. We looked at Patrick Mahomes, and Kansas City traded up 17 spots from 27. They didn't need him. It was like, I don't know. They haven't been to an AFC title in 50 years, and they haven't left since.
Right.
We've seen other examples where, quarterbacks come. Tom Brady, New England wasn't a powerhouse. They hadn't won a Super Bowl to the point of when they drafted him, and they had a, MVP caliber quarterback that started in the Super Bowl in 1996. They drafted him anyways, late round, and it worked out. Just because the situation doesn't historically have winning, that doesn't necessarily mean Peyton Manning the same way. Indianapolis was a dumpster fire for years. Yeah. Brett Favre, when he was traded to Green Bay for 10 plus years was bottom of their division consistently, trying to find the next guy since Bart Starr. Sometimes franchises go through a lull. Chicago really hasn't even had one in the modern day before, other than like a Jay Cutler, if you want to even consider that. But that was kind of more underwhelming based on his talent.
So, yeah, absolutely.
That's my thing is I don't think that it's this kind of situation. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore have combined for 10 1,000-yard seasons, and it's by far more than any other quarterback situation as a rookie.
Yeah, solid running backs, group of running backs, good tight end, and a good O-line. You can't ask for more. That was what I was going to say. Is actually, I think Caleb Williams is walking into the best situation out of any of the top 3 quarterbacks.
You can't tell me if New England hypothetically had the first pick. Obviously, they might have made different moves at this point. Right. Maybe they would have been the ones to trade for Keenan Allen or sign somebody. Who knows? But on top of having that, they still have the 9th pick.
Right.
To add an instant impact starter. We thought it would be, his wide receiver 1 that he would grow with. It remains to be seen. We'll be discussing our
Yeah.
how we go through our mock coming out next week, but we'll see what they do there. But yeah, it's a perfect situation, and whether it was Caleb or whether it was Justin Fields, we both felt pretty strongly that they were going to be a 10-win
Yeah, absolutely.
flirtatious team.
Absolutely.
They weren't, because they had the first pick. This is Carolina's pick. This is not Chicago's pick. They were 7-win team last year, so they don't have a ton of room from being the last wild card to where they finished in the season. So, and in the NFC, you're more likely to have a 9-win, multiple
Right.
9-win teams make the playoffs, and at the very least, I think they will be one of them. And maybe they even advance further than that. We'll know.
So, and then the next couple picks, we have Washington and New England. We in our mock had Jaden Daniels going to, similar to Mel Kiper. Jeremiah goes with Drake May. It's basically, for me personally, it's a toss up, absolute toss up. It's just pick your favorite type of player. They're completely different, but they both bring something special to the game.
Right.
Jaden Daniels has the legs, runs. He's got, he had one of the highest deep grades ever by PFF. Not necessarily capable of throwing the ball, 60 yards in the air, but still 40, 50 yards in the air and is going to, hit the dot. So, both of those guys, and now Drake, he's a guy that has the prototypical style, the Trevor Lawrence, the Josh Allen build, good athleticism also. So I don't think you can go wrong at 2 or 3 either.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's a good situation. We have typically sided, in our 1.0 was Jaden Daniels to Washington. That was just stylistically. Cliff Kingsbury, that's the quarterback that he's like to play with, since he's been with Mahomes, Caleb Williams, and Kyler Murray. The most notable ones, all of which are dual threat quarterbacks. So Jaden Daniels, obviously 1,000 yards rushing, Heisman winner, all that stuff. Numbers to me, all of them have elite numbers, other than I guess JJ McCarthy in terms of the
Right.
high end prospects. Everybody had video game like numbers, so I don't want to compare Jaden Daniels' 44 touchdowns because Bo Nix had the most accurate quarterback season ever.
Yeah,
like
best adjusted
it's apples
ever.
to oranges. They're all elite in terms of the numbers. To me, it's just about fit, and we thought stylistically it made more sense with the coaching and then bringing in Marcus Mariota like they did via free agency. That's just kind of the ideal complement or somebody that he can learn from, another former Heisman winner. So,
number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, we could go back and forth between either or. I don't think if we are going to be grading or judging somebody's pick, if they pick Drake May, we wouldn't give them a D for.
No, yeah, absolutely.
They're very, very close.
Yeah,
as prospects, and I think both of them will succeed or fail based on the situation that they go to. And I think Washington at this point is a good situation.
Yes, absolutely. They have solid set of receivers. They just brought in Austin Eckler to pair with Brian Robinson. You're going to expect, hopefully, if they can't bring their defense up and say that their defense is probably not going to give over 30 points a game this year, but say they give up 25, your quarterback is going to be asked to do a lot. Jaden Daniels and Drake May are going to make their O-lines better because they can move. It's not the same. They're not pocket passers. They help their offensive line by getting in and out of the pocket and having good awareness. So yeah, both are good picks. At 3, we just flipped them. So the Patriots in Mel Kiper's draft go Drake May. In Jeremiah's draft, they go Jaden Daniels. So we just had our conversation about them. Let's jump to 4. And this is where the draft really gets interesting, especially on the Daniel Jeremiah side. Daniel Jeremiah doesn't normally do trades, especially not this early.
Yeah, usually you wait till the last one, the day before the draft, where he comes out with his trades. He, to me, is my personal favorite analyst to look at because he knows a lot. He is in a lot of circles and he's well respected and regarded.
Right.
If you guys want to remember last year, he mocked Houston picking CJ Stroud at 2 and trading up from 12 to 3 to get Will Anderson. Everybody had, going one or the other because there was rumors like, oh, Texans might just pass on quarterback.
Right.
Or, they love Will Anderson, so they're going to go high. And then some were like, oh, no, they're going to pick him and then best available. he was the only one that was like, they're gonna not only pick CJ Stroud at 2, but they're gonna trade up for the defensive end, and no one else had that, and it happened.
Yeah, and
so those kinds of things that happen when you have that kind of intel, that's just like you have my attention,
right, for sure. And
so
one guy he's actually done really well on this offseason that he was ahead of, because we talked. I remember texting you, I don't know, mid-January or something. I was like, oh, hey, Quinion Mitchell, this guy's going to be really good. I never thought he'd be number 1 on our board. I was like, oh, this guy's good, but we've got Terran Arnold, we've got Nate Wiggins, we got Cooper DeJean, we got Kool-Aid. At that point, Kool-Aid was still top 2, possibly, based on just what he had done on the field. So he was like, Quinion Mitchell's number 1. And now everybody is mocking Quinion Mitchell the number 1 corner. So yeah, you're definitely hitting it on the head. He's got great intel ahead of the game, and here it is. We got our first trade. JJ McCarthy going to the Vikings. They had to give up the 11th and the 23rd that they just received from Houston. We knew that trade was for quarterback, and that's what Jeremiah's thinking. So yeah, I think that this trade makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's the worst kept secret in the world after they made that move that they're going to be aggressively moving up. Who knows who they trade with? I actually would prefer, or I think it makes more sense as a Chargers
deal
too. Because they're kind of re-scheming their offense like we've talked in the past, and there's a lot of good right tackles that will be available at 11. And because of all the assets that they lost, they're just trying to rebuild their roster with the lack of cap space they have, and so getting an additional first helps with that.
Yeah.
Now, Arizona, it's kind of hard. We want to preface once again, Mel Kiper, this mock is not trades.
Right.
So him going Marvin Harrison at 4 and Daniel Jeremiah going McCarthy, that doesn't mean that they have a difference of opinion, but it's just that's kind of where Daniel Jeremiah slotted his chaotic, so to speak, draft.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my takeaway from it. JJ McCarthy to the Vikings makes a lot of sense. I've said it off the air that to me it really comes down to Minnesota or New England as the 2 most ideal teams. I just don't think that the Giants will have a more compelling offer than Minnesota or even another team like the Raiders to move up just 1 or even 2 spots to get him if they are even in love with him. And I don't see a situation where Arizona stands pat, Chargers stand pat, and then he just falls to 6.
I think my biggest thing with this whole situation is I don't think Arizona will move off of Marvin Harrison. Yes. That's the biggest thing. Because for me, if we think that, we're going to get this big move all the way up to 4, well, that means that the Cardinals don't see somebody that they want as bad as the assets that they're going to receive. Marvin Harrison might be the guy that if this trade happens and the Cardinals don't take him and he falls to 5, and I know Jeremiah has the Jets trading up, but say the Chargers are the ones that take, a wide receiver number 1 off the board because they're depleted at that position. Well, that could be the steal of the draft, which it in my eyes, it probably is, because I think we're overvaluing the quarterback position in some ways. I mean, of course, you have to have a quarterback. 1, 2, 3 make a lot of sense. I just don't know that JJ is that guy yet, and you might have to wait on him to be that guy.
He certainly has the most questions than answers. But at the same time, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's somebody that should be drafted. He just probably is going to be overdrafted based on where he stands as prospect right now. And that's okay, because some people have worked out that way. JJ Watt comes to mind, where he was booed by Texans fans when he got drafted at 11. He was just kind of like not spectacularly athletic, didn't have eye-popping numbers, and he went off at 11, and they were just like, this wasn't, and instantly, rookie year is just that guy.
I don't know that I'm putting JJ's talents down. I just think he's one of the guys that needs a year, and they got Sam Darnold. We talked about that before. Sam Darnold, a year for I believe $10 million. So they have a guy that can play while JJ's in the wings, learning and getting better. But to move all the way up to the number 4 overall pick, you're expecting someone that's probably going to be somewhat close to like the top 12 to 15 minimum. quarterbacks in the league. And right now, it's hard to see that. But these are also NFL analysts that have a lot of abilities. They have a lot of scouts going out constantly. JJ did come in at 220, which was good for him at the combine.
Yes.
Things like that. He is doing all the right things to become the number 4 overall pick, which, if we have 1, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks, will be the first time in the common draft era.
Yep.
So it's a very exciting trade. I think 5 makes more sense, like we said, because I don't know that they'll overlook Marvin Harrison. But this is a reasonable trade for sure.
Yeah, it's nothing to sneeze at or just kind of like raise your eyebrow, because the only thing also, another thing to note, Arizona already has a second first round pick, and obviously they need more talent, but I don't think that they're in a position where they're just like, we're lacking draft assets. We said in their outlook in the NFC West, they have the highest graded overall draft capital, so they're not shy about lacking assets, like, for example, a Denver or the Chargers, who basically just only have all their picks and probably just need to add some more young guys. So they're not as desperate to gain and trade back. And so best player available, if Marvin Harrison's there, to me, you got to go that way.
Yeah.
Or if you view Malik Neighbors that way, even if that's not my ideal, what I would do, it's still, you're taking the best player on your board. You don't need to trade back. And, I don't think, the only way that I think that they're just going to get a absolute can't refuse offer is if Drake May is the one that falls. If JJ McCarthy somehow leapfrogs Drake May and he goes 3 to New England, not only does that set the world on fire of just plot twist, didn't expect that, but I think Drake May would garner more, teams' interest, because now it's like, if the Raiders are just like, oh yeah, I want a piece of that, or Denver's like, you know what, we don't have draft assets, but we got to go get that guy.
Yeah.
And Minnesota is like, oh, you know what, like, people might try to outbid us. Here's the third first round pick that we weren't offering previously. So that could shake up a lot of things. But if it is quarterback, 1, 2, 3, it's kind of hard to move off of 4 to me.
I think the fact that there's an ex-Michigan Hall of Famer quarterback that played for the New England Patriots for so long, that could be an option. Now we got another Michigan quarterback coming out. But yeah, so the next, the Chargers are on the clock at 5. We were just talking about them a little bit, but Mel Kiper not trading. Mel Kiper goes Malik Neighbors, electrifying receiver, going to take the top off of defenses. Makes a lot of sense. And then Daniel Jeremiah, because JJ McCarthy goes at 4. Someone has to come get Marvin Harrison. Someone.
Yes.
Please. The Jets move all the way up. But this was prior to the Mike Williams news. So
yes,
I want to preface that, because I don't know that they will do that at this point, because Mike Williams is now in a Jets uniform. But it's definitely something that's fun.
The thing that it's fun, it's different, it's unique, and it's probably something that, now that the Jets have addressed both tackle spots, they're not really penciled in like, we're going tackle for sure. Like, they were one of our more as soon as the season ended, we're like, they're going tackle. We know it's a good draft class. They're going to be there. Second or third, doesn't matter. Like, they're going to take a tackle. Now it's like, well, they could, but they don't have to. Now. So they're kind of a wild card now. I've seen a lot of buzz of, we have no idea where Brock Bowers is going. I would not put a single penny on guessing where he is at this very moment. But now there's starting to be a little bit of traction there, just because it's like, well,
why not?
Yeah.
They have everything else. Why not go the best? They're going to get him, if Mel Kiper in this draft has him going at 10, and basically you're getting a top 5 guy much later. By far the best player at his position, possibly one of the better, possibly the highest floor player in the whole class. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and with Daniel Jeremiah's trade, we look at the Jets moving up. I don't know what that trade would look like at the very moment, 10 to 5, because I know 11 to 5, Minnesota at the very least is giving up 11 to 23.
Right.
And that's way more enticing than, a first now and a second and a third, or
absolutely.
like, I need 2 ones.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that be in this class or next class, I just need the
Some sort
ones
of,
because
yeah.
they're way more powerful, as a draft asset, as a trade asset, and so that's kind of why I lean Chargers if they are trading back. It's got to be getting an offer that you can't refuse, like similar to what I said with Arizona.
Well, for me, Marvin Harrison is worth 2 ones.
Yes,
That's my thing. And it's also, you're only moving back 5 spots, and you're going to probably expect next year's one to be in the low 20s, maybe mid 20s. Like, I don't think they're going to go, like, we don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl necessarily. So
no.
say 23. They get 23 next year. Okay, that seems like a reasonable deal, 10 and 23. But at the same time, why not just take Marvin Harrison Jr.? So that's my only problem with it, is that if Marvin Harrison is at 5, that's the best option for the
Yes.
Chargers right then and there. But yeah, so let's jump to the New York Giants, both taking wide receiver. Malik Neighbors already off the board for Mel Kiper. He goes Roma Dunze, and then Daniel Jeremiah goes Malik Neighbors. I know that Daniel Jeremiah is actually higher on Roma Dunze, but
Yes.
he seems to believe that Malik Neighbors is the guy. I think we need to talk about the fact that there's a stir that Malik Neighbors might be the number 1 wide receiver on a lot of draft boards, which I don't see. I think Malik Neighbors would be the number 1 wide receiver in a lot of drafts. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I just think the talent from Marvin Harrison is just so much. It's very Julio-esque. It's, that type of player. And I don't think that can be overlooked. I think the league is about speed, though.
Well, we had to look at it in the sense that I don't think with Malik Neighbors, since he is the best, take it over the top
Yeah.
Receiver in this class, most explosive. He's basically the by far the best of his kind compared to like Marvin Harrison, great possession receiver, good route runner. Roma
Right.
Dunze is not a Walmart version of him by any means.
No. Yeah.
He's more like a Costco or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't even know. I don't go to Costco, but like those style of receivers are multiple of them are there.
Yeah, of course.
Even like Brian Thomas and Adonai Mitchell, like speedsters but bigger bodies that can do multiple things.
Mm-hmm.
So those style of receivers are plethora of those. But the speedster over the top, just dynamic playmakers, like there's not really a ton.
No, yeah,
And so
absolutely.
that's why I think it helps him rise a little bit. And also, I don't know if when the season ended, I don't think the gap was like
Right.
this. It's always been like this, but because everybody agrees that Harrison is the better player, it makes it seem like the gap is wider than it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So if a team is just schematically like, I want this style of receiver, like we talked about with the Giants, they need
Explosion.
Yeah. So that's more equipped for his success is in a situation like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like, somebody like that wants a smash mouth football team like the Chargers
Contested
do. They probably
catch.
want contested
Right.
catch guys that we're not going to be in many third and longs, but when we are, where we're going and we know who's going to come down.
Right. They're open when they're not open type of guys. There's some guys like that in this draft class for sure that, are contested catch, just going to make the play when it matters. Mm-hmm. Malik Neighbors, of course, has a different kind of skill set, but you have to play him differently, of course, is the biggest thing. But we look at, one of the best separators of Marvin Harrison Jr., best route runners, best hands, these types of things. Well, actually, best hands is probably Rome. I'll be honest. Rome Odunze probably has the best hands. But, he just has a lot of things that he's above average at and then things he's great at. While there are some things with Neighbors that, you could be like, oh, well, he's probably just okay at that. But he's so electrifying in other spots that it makes up for it.
But in terms of the Giants as a whole, they were one that we talked about. The rumors kind of influenced us a little bit, saying like, hey, they could actually be the team that. Basically, the reason that we started believing truly that McCarthy was a top 10 pick was because of the Giants. Mm-hmm. Because we thought that somebody would have to trade up, and it's like, why would we when there's nobody 6 through 10 that needs a quarterback?
Right.
But then when there's rumblings coming out that they're so done with him, mm-hmm. It's like, okay, well, now we can see it. They're probably not going to trade up, but if somebody falls, like, they might take the chance.
Right.
But then when they bring in Drew Lock, $5 million fully guaranteed, it's kind of hard to see they bring a third guy in and also give up capital to take it. And that's what I said when I was stating earlier. I don't think that their trade offer beats somebody else
Right.
when they're trying to pounce on the fourth guy. And so if somebody like Drake May fell to 5, I think that they're just going to get outbid, and that just is what it is. And I think they're not going to be saying that's the end of the world, because they'll just be like, we'll address this at a later time,
Yeah, of
and
course.
we'll have the second best receiver available no matter what.
I think they pick up the phone if a quarterback falls to 5 and call the Chargers, because the Chargers would be happy if no one else is calling to flip picks and get some extra assets.
Yeah,
You
why
know what
not?
I mean? Because they're still going to get their guy. But that's my only thought, is like they are like the last resort type of team, where I'd expect if like the Raiders are calling or something, but they don't have the great trade, and you really love like Joe Walt, say you really love him, or you really love Malik Neighbors, or you know whoever it is, you could flip one pick and give them JJ McCarthy, and you get extra assets to get your guy.
Yeah. I mean, let's kind of transition right into it. A couple of picks that not only they agree with, but we do as well.
Yeah, this is option.
This was what our mock was. Other than I think we had the Chargers at 5.
Yeah, they took all at 5.
Yeah. But lately, I guess that's a little bit foreshadowing. But Joe Alt to Tennessee just makes too much sense. They just released Andre Dillard, who was a second stop former first round pick that they were hoping would be the plug and play guy for Taylor Lewan, who retired a season ago, and they just have one of the worst lines in football. They need an anchor.
Yeah. If Joe Alt's here, it is a go. Everybody's yelling. Yeah, everybody's yelling and screaming. You see those videos. This is where it happens, right here. It's almost like that Justin Jefferson video where Minnesota got him and they were all screaming and yelling, but they were over, it was COVID, I believe, or something. And so it was kind of fun, but that's what this feels like, that kind of excitement. If this happens, it's, you go off of a run of just quarterbacks and just wide receivers in both of these drafts. You have 3 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers from Mel Kiper, and then 4 and 2 for Daniel Jeremiah. And then you get somebody else, big guy in the trenches, Lockett. There's no point in even really having a conversation.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this is one of the turn the card.
Yeah.
It's to me one of the easy. I wouldn't say that because it could be a bland first round and the Chargers stay at 5, they take Joe Alt. I'm not going to be shocked by it. But right now, the way that I see it, Joe Alt's one of the safest picks to Tennessee that I'm just feel good about.
Right.
Because there could be positional flips if Malik Neighbors went over Marvin, but we got the receiver position right. 2 and 3 quarterbacks going switching. We got the quarterback right. But Tennessee, we know they're taking the tackle.
Yeah.
And they could be a trade down spot, they're taking the tackle. They could be a trade spot, why not? They're taking tackle.
It's tackle. Either way, no matter what, it's tackle. Absolutely.
And then Dallas Turner, we talked about Atlanta's just struggled getting to the quarterback. And best defensive player falls all the way to 8. You don't really see that very often. I wouldn't say that Dallas Turner in other classes would be in conversation for the top defensive player.
No.
But in this one, he is. You can pick your preference on corner, edge, what have you, but I think Atlanta's one of the teams that they've just really attacked addressing the offense. Their line is already excellent.
Yes.
A+ to begin with. Receiver, they had addressed top 10 pick, but they traded for
Darnell Mooney.
Well, they signed Darnell Mooney, right, and then they traded for Rondale Moore.
Right.
For Desmond Ridder. So basically, their first 3 is set. Tight end is set. Running back is set. 1-2 punch. Quarterback, obviously, the big signing of Kirk Cousins.
Defense
for your all 7 picks.
Yeah.
Why not? I'm not entirely confident to just say it's going to be Dallas Turner, but I'm very confident to say that they're a strong bet to be the first defensive.
Yeah.
So both guys agree with Dallas Turner. Right now, is that just kind of something that you think would be an ideal?
I think you pick your favorite edge, most likely here. I think corner makes sense if you think like you just have like a home run corner that's going, say you see Sauce Gardner, but Sauce Gardner went at 4 Now you're getting him at 8.
Mhm.
It's one of those things. But I don't know that there is one of those guys. I personally don't see one of those guys. So I think best edge available to your team could be Jared Verse, could be Laiatu Latu, could be Dallas Turner. Whichever one is, pick your poison. However you think your team is. Say also, big thing is Dallas Turner's the youngest. He is the most to get better at of the three, but he's not the most polished. His athleticism jumps off the board, those fun things. But maybe you go Latu because he can stand up, he can put his hand in the ground, he has all the pass rush moves. Maybe you go Jared Verse. You love his ability to stop the run, play, different things. You just pick your favorite guy. And they have the opportunity to do that because of the run on all other offensive players to this point. Chicago, again, get to see them at 9 for their own pick. This is an interesting pick because we had a conversation. We thought offensive tackle, we thought wide receiver, we thought edge, we thought cornerback, and basically we're going to put our mock draft out soon. But you see Jared Verse go off the board for Mel Kiper, and you see Rome Odunze go off the board for Daniel Jeremiah. Both guys are great players. You just have to pick. It just depends what Chicago is thinking when they get to this point.
Yeah. I mean, Roma Dunze on our first mock, I believe we had him going to either. I think
believe
it was actually Neighbors that fell to Chicago. But regardless, we had him taking a receiver. We felt really good about it. Have a receiver to grow with Caleb.
Right.
Just spike up your offense and take advantage and get your quarterback best situation. Since then, they signed DeAndre Swift, trade for Keenan Allen, bring in Gerald Everett. They've addressed 3 different skill spots.
Right.
It's kind of hard to see them doing it again because it's not depleted at all anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Roma Dunze, I think, would be a luxury pick, but I don't think they're in a situation like their division rival Detroit, where they address their few needs, they just have nothing left.
Yeah.
And they could just be like, oh, just see what we got.
Right.
I like you told me, you kind of have I guess convinced me like edge is probably the spot we would target right now.
Right.
It makes a lot of sense. My only thing is a little too early for the second one.
Yeah.
And again, if there's other trades, we'll see what if somebody falls and somebody wants to trade up for the wide receiver 3 or a quarterback 4 or 5.
Right.
Who knows what will happen from here? But I think that this is a true wild card spot because you don't know whether they're going to stay there, and if they do, you don't know what direction that they're going to go.
Yeah, 4 possible positions that we see, and then also the fact that it probably is the best idea to trade back because then they aren't reaching. They have another group of guys that they're still, because we don't expect like Jared Verse and Laiatu Latu to go probably before 12, 13. And then all the cornerbacks are in that same range. So it's just, Brian Thomas is there if you want to go receiver still. Like, it's just, there's a different group of guys.
And we also see, can't be taken lightly, like the tackle class is so strong. And
yeah.
Somebody like New Orleans who just didn't really upgrade there, and Trevor Penning, who they drafted 2 years ago, just has not worked out, not only from play, but just attitude perspective. They could look to be like aggressive and trade up and be like, we want our anchor. We've always had a good left tackle, with Willie Rove and then Teron Armstead. We want to solidify this position. Let's go do it. There's spots or people to do it with Olu, or they want Ryan Ramczyk, the uncertainty with his injury, right? To Fuaga or Troy Fatino.
If they want to go
they just want to get crazy. Like those things are in play too. So like I said, it's a complete wild card. We won't give away our hand too much on what we think right now. But again, we've kind of addressed number 10 a little bit with Brock Bowers. Would make sense. Jets kind of, they don't need wide receivers much anymore. Address tackle. Those are the prime spots right here. Brock Bowers, top 5 prospect. We don't know where he's going. They don't really have a solidified tight end.
Yeah.
And then with Daniel Jeremiah, obviously Chargers trading back to get the best right tackle off the board. I think it would be a plus spot.
A plus.
My only thing is, in this scenario, they don't get a second first. at least this year. He didn't give a projection of like what this trade would look like. He just has them trade him back. To me, if they traded back to 11, they would get that same guy, and then they would have the 23rd pick as well to address receiver if they wanted or something of that nature. I think that would be a great situation for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the fits just would be phenomenal, just as great if they would have went somebody else's.
Yeah, and I think Fuaga's a great. Like I love Fuaga. He has moved up our board. We're not going to tell y'all what happened yet, but definitely go watch the offensive tackle video when it comes out. He's one of those guys that rose. We talked about him in the risers in the combine. So yeah, he's a great player, great fit. I think it's a match made in heaven, especially for a Jim Harbaugh run offense.
Right. So and then Mel, we're not going to touch on him much. That he has the same pick as when Daniel Jeremiah trades up. He's probably projecting a trade as well, but it's just not a trade. Traded mock. Daniel Jeremiah, Arizona, as a result, trading back to get down to 11. They pick up the best available edge, Jared Verse. That's just one of those that you don't really think about because obviously they're just way too high for edge, and then they're way back at 27. So all the great edges are just going off before them. If this scenario were to go down, do you think this would be a solid fit for Jared?
Fit, maybe not, because point in the draft is good. I think fit is a little bit harder because he always has been a hand in the dirt kind of guy. They do run a 3-4. Maybe the fit's not right, but you're still going to get a great player. Just is he going to be comfortable standing up? Is really my biggest thing with it. But yeah, I mean, I don't like that conversation as much just because of the fact that you miss out on great players when you do that. But yes, if we had to say like this is a good pick or a bad pick, I don't know that I think this would be the guy at this point. But yeah, if it's edge Jared Verse and they said we're going to stand him up and play him across from Zaven Collins and he's just going to be our bookend, sure. If he can do it, then that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think he just kind of needs to show his versatility if he's gonna go that way because we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
But just remains to be seen. It's hard to even break it down too much when it's not a scenario you even envision happening. But we could be wrong. We'll just kind of see what happens. But moving on to Denver, they're one that has been very quiet this offseason. Haven't had a lot of additions, some subtractions. Obviously, they're one of the few teams that need a quarterback that haven't really picked anybody up. They just let one go. It's no secret that they need one. My thing is, without a second-round pick, you use your first pick when you have such a depleted roster on a quarterback who's probably the fifth one off the board.
To reach. I know. I think, personally, I think J.J. McCarthy's a little bit of a reach, but all three of the second-tier guys all have round 2 grades. So picking any of them this early when you have no second-round pick, no money, no salary cap space, can't bring anybody in to help them. You just lost you lost one of your top wide receivers and then possibly would be getting rid of the other if that happens. I don't know if that will, but if you have no receivers, you're bringing a rookie into a situation that's not good. I've also heard a lot of talks about how they are very comfortable with Jared Stidham, which is fine. I think that's fine. Let him have the opportunity this year. But I don't know what is going to happen in Denver. This is a really hard spot.
So with me and my mindset about it is the only quarterback right now that makes sense to me if at 12 would be Bo Nix. Because he's the only one that comes closest to Sean Payton's old golden boy, Drew Brees.
Right.
Somebody that just doesn't have the biggest arm, very accurate, makes the right plays, minimizes mistakes. That's exactly Bo Nix. And he has more starts than anybody. Setting records, like I said, I don't care about the numbers. I think it's about the fit.
Yeah.
This is the right fit for him. However, is it too early? And will he succeed based on they've traded away Jerry Jeudy, have one of the least appetizing skill groups in the league right now. I don't know early if he'll have some success, but it would be a patient project that I think Sean Payton, if he has the guarantee, like, I don't care how, from a front office perspective, I don't care how this year goes. You're the coach in 2025. Just do the best you can this year, and then we're gonna
Right.
start attacking next year.
Of course.
Once we get a little bit more relief and we have the assets that we want.
So the one stat that really stands out to me is the 2.44 seconds to throw the ball. That is by far the fastest out of the top 6.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Michael Penix are very fast, and that makes a lot of sense. They're older. It really correlates to the fact that they've done it for so long. But that is something that you just talked about. Drew Brees, got the ball out quick, always was that on time, always had rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't necessarily push the ball type of thing.
Yeah. In a perfect world, somebody in the early 20s says, I want to move up to 12. Here's my second and first. And Denver moves back and still takes Bo Nix.
Right.
However, at 12, I don't know if anybody is really going to fall other than Brock. That would just be a prospect that's like, I need this guy.
Yeah.
And Brock, I don't think somebody gives up their 1 and their 2 for this tight end, no matter how talented he is. So, in a perfect world, yes, Denver trades back and still takes him. They get a second round pick back and then can build that way. But this isn't Madden. This is, sometimes you just got to get your guy where you can.
Daniel Jeremiah takes Brock, like you were just saying. Not much to say at this point. You just take best. If you're the Broncos, sometimes you just have to take best player available, and this is who it is right here. Exactly. So I'm okay with this pick for sure.
I don't think they could take an edge, a corner, a tackle, Brock Bowers, even Bo Nix. I'm not gonna really judge them at all because they need all those spots.
Yeah.
So whatever the direction they go, they're probably going to be one of the harder to pin down if it leaks out that they're just going to be complacent on not taking quarterback. I would say keep in mind if they don't, they could be one of the teams to target Spencer Rattler or a mid-round quarterback that has. Yeah. We'll be talking in our quarterback video that we released pretty shortly. The mid-round quarterbacks that are starting to creep up into day 2 worthiness, and Denver could be the spot for one of those, but it just kind of remains to be seen at the very moment.
Right. And then moving on to the Raiders, Mel Kiper has them taking right tackle J.C. Latham, and then Jeremiah has them taking quarterback Michael Penix Jr. I do believe that Michael Penix Jr. did not make Mel Kiper's top 32 in this draft. So
yeah, he's the most polarizing quarterback right now. Because primarily of the injuries. Mm-hmm. He's the only one that truly has significant history, and he's the oldest one. I think
they're basically the same.
They're the same age, but he's got more wear and tear despite having less starts. And to me, I just don't know where to place him. And it would make sense at Raiders. J.C. Latham, we've talked about. We're not as high on him as others. In our eyes, the only common theme here is that both would be breaches.
Yes.
But, there are spots that could be improved. But, I mean, you're the one that can take the reins on it. And, what would be your more ideal of the two?
Of the two? Mm-hmm. I think right tackle probably would be my more ideal pick of the two. But at the same time, I probably wouldn't go with either of these guys. My favorite spot is probably going corner. Personally, and getting Quinion Mitchell or
that's how a lot of people, which was kind of surprising when I saw these yesterday morning, is that I've seen a lot of mocks where the Raiders are taking the top corner.
Yeah,
and they have a need for it, and so it was a little shocking that they didn't, especially when they're kind of doubling down on the defensive hard-nosed mentality. That's kind of the identity that they're kind of attaching themselves to.
Right.
Neither of those really help that, but at the same time, it doesn't really hurt.
I love competitors. And if you watch our cornerback video, Quinion Mitchell is the competitor. He would be a Raider. You know what I mean? Like that kind of gritty, hard-nosed. You want him on your team, but other teams hate him. That is Quinion Mitchell to me. But what are you going to do? We need right tackle also. We need a quarterback. It's not we need a quarterback. We just brought in Gardner Minshew. It's not that we're lacking at quarterback. It wouldn't be bad to have a guy that either is learning or has some sort of he needs a year to wait, basically.
Right.
But I just don't know that this makes sense to me personally. But that's okay. I mean, we're not agreeing or disagreeing. We're disagreeing or agreeing, but we're not saying that this couldn't happen. This could absolutely happen.
And then, the next 4 picks, we'll just kind of gloss over each one. They're all the same. Olu Fashino to the Saints, Quinton Mitchell to the Colts, Seattle taking Troy Fautino, and Jacksonville taking Darren Arnold. So obviously those are positions that we probably have no issue with. Is any of them, or which is, give me your favorite match of the bunch, and then also give me one that's just like, I'm not sure that's the direction I'd go.
Well, I think that my favorite has got to be Olu. He started to fall in most mock drafts. That's why we see Fuaga above him in both of these mocks. But I believe, actually, no, that's incorrect. I believe Mel Kiper has Fuaga later, at 18 to Cincinnati. But I think that Fuaga or JC Latham, you see, he's the third guy off the board. He's starting to lower himself down. But Olu is going to be a really good bookend pass blocking offensive tackle. So he makes the most sense to what the New Orleans Saints need, and will be the biggest upgrade versus what they have. I think that the other guys are great. I don't necessarily think that I put as much into interior offensive linemen, maybe as I should. But at 16, you got to think, okay, yes, of course, Seattle needs an interior offensive lineman. They need interior defensive lineman. I'm just not going to take one that early, personally, especially when I don't know. He's never played. He's only played left tackle. He's never played interior offensive line. We don't know what he will do. We don't know if he is not comfortable in there, if he needs to play tackle, things like that. So I just think that fit is, everybody has Troy Fautanu a lot higher than I do in that situation. But I don't hate it, just fit wise. So
right, and then with Jacksonville, obviously Terry Arnold. He was, I believe, off the board at 13 in our first mock to the Raiders.
I believe so.
And then, so obviously, but we, at the same time, we had corner going to Jacksonville.
Right.
So we're on the board here. I'm not sure anything that they did in free agency is going to move us off that. Obviously, they did lose Calvin Ridley, so they don't have a true wide receiver one, so that can't be ruled out, because Brian Thomas, A.D. Mitchell are starting to really get steam as like they're third and first round picks. But how high do they go? I think the 17 to 23 range is probably where both of them come off the board. But I don't know if Jacksonville is going to go that route, because they still have a serviceable skill group.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Even if they went in just as Gabe Davis, Kirk, and Zay Jones with Evan Ingram, and like it'll be fine. You'll draft any one of them in fantasy if the price is right, and all of them are capable of being.
They're all serviceable.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk's obviously the best of the bunch, but he's also getting paid like the best of the bunch. So you kind of have that problem too, is like if they want to go wide receiver, well, now they're paying a lot of money across their wide receiver group to not have any elite receivers, especially because you don't know what's going to happen with the rookie.
Right.
So that's just my thoughts on it. I mean, Evan Ingram has been great. So he's probably their top receiver, truly. He got like, what, 6.5 or 7 targets a game towards the end of the year. Travis Etienne's been great. So I think they're fine. I think they have to go corner here. I think it only makes sense.
And it remains to be seen what corner we would put there if we were there. Like, our board would be a little different, 10 to 17 for sure. But moving on to 18, another similarity in terms of position that we had, but difference of player. J.C. Latham off the board in Kiper's mock, but he falls to 18 for Cincinnati, and then Tyrese Fuaga, who should not be at 18, but if he fell, it would be a home run. Obviously, this is a little different because they did address tackle. They brought in Trent Brown, so they have 2 massive tackles with Orlando Brown Jr. and Trent Brown. Are you still comfortable going tackle here, or is this a spot where it becomes a little bit more of a wild card because they kind of patched it up a little bit?
Yeah, I think it's a wild card for sure. I think there's some other positions that they could go that make a lot of sense. Just talking about, they go edge. Latu's still on the board. They might want to go corner. They could go receiver. This is the Bengals, right? Yeah, they could go receiver and get, the replacement for what we expect to be T. Higgins leaving, things like that. There's a lot of options, and so that is what makes them a wild card, because I didn't expect Trent Brown to be there. So
my wonder is with T. Higgins obviously requesting a trade. They don't have to honor it.
right,
However, I expect them to. I think we both do. Will he be dealt by the time of the draft? I think that'll be a huge, important thing because of the fact that if they do go receiver at 18, everybody knows that they're going to get rid of T. Higgins.
yeah,
And then the price drops. And then it's just like, oh, well, we think he's a first rounder. So, and then it becomes a huge, awkward thing holdout going in.
right.
And I'm not sure if that's the route that they want to go down. So, I think it might be predicated on when that move happens and if it even does.
Well, the problem is how deep this class is. Like, you could be like, hey, Chiefs, do you want T. Higgins? Well, no, we want this other receiver in the draft that we're not going to pay that much. Buffalo, do you need T. Higgins? No, we don't have the cap space, and we can just draft one. Exactly. It's like that. So that's the biggest thing for me.
Like the problem is that I think his draft value is exactly where he was drafted, which was the first pick of the second round. Yeah. So right at the end of the first or early in the second, depending on the taste of the problem is the teams that need receivers, Kansas City, Buffalo, you can even throw in
San Fran might be if they get rid of Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, all of them don't have the situation to where they're like, yeah, we'll not only pay you this pick, but we'll pay him as well.
Right.
Brandon Ayuk, if he's moved on from, it's because they decide we can't pay him.
Yeah.
And so we're going to reset the timeline and draft somebody else that's a similar player, much cheaper. That's the route that they would go if they went receiver. If Buffalo were to trade Stephon Diggs, they obviously need a receiver.
Right.
But they don't have the cap space. They just let go of so many core players on the defensive side because of cap issues. So bringing in a receiver doesn't help with either of those situations. So I think the best situation is 33, exactly where he was picked, Carolina, moving for him. And then all of a sudden, basically, the Bengals have 2 first-round picks.
Right.
But that's a talk we'll have for another day. I think that tackle we were pretty comfortable with. We actually went Amarius Mims because Huaga was off the board at 10, and J.C. Latham we didn't even have it as a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Maybe that changes, maybe it doesn't. But regardless, we're a little less confident at tackle right now. So that'll be a good talking point leading up to the draft at 18. Moving on to 19, the Rams we considered a wild card, but now it's kind of more. There's a little bit more clarity now that Aaron Donald has announced his retirement.
Of course, got to get a defensive player. I don't know that they need interior defensive line just because they do have Colby Durant, who was great. Leatu Latu being there, 3-4 outside linebacker, can put his hand in the dirt, has all the pass rush moves. Reloading with a guy that's ready to play at that level. Because, we talk about Jared Verse and Dallas Turner. Leatu is ready. Like, he's like, okay, let me step in and let me get 12, 13 sacks this year. No problem. I got you, coach. What? Sean McVay's like, chopping at the bit to have this type of pick.
And he stays in LA.
And he does not move. So. Exactly. So, Byron Murphy, though, I think this is where we start talking about the interior defensive lineman going, him and Johnny Newton, one of the two, whoever, pick your favorite, whatever. If you think Byron's the guy, this is where the range is, where they start to come off the board probably between here and the end of the first round. So we should see both of them, moving, getting picked in this range. So I think that he's also an option. I just don't think it's to the Rams personally.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I feel pretty good about them picking the best defensive player on their board.
Yeah.
And I don't think that either one is going to be an A+ to us, but it would be just very solid and ideal. Moving on to 20, this is going to be a fun one because typically we're kind of lockstep. Now that Pittsburgh has moved on from Deontay Johnson, I think it really opens the door to be the ideal team to take wide receiver 4, whoever that may be on their board. However, obviously, I cannot dispute the fact that they do need tackle.
Right, for sure.
That's who we had going at 20 in our first mock. So it'll be interesting to see how our minds kind of go as we put together our mock 2.0, because we're not putting out individual mocks. We're working together for the same one.
Right.
We'll come out with other videos on what would we do, etc. and so on. But yeah, just kind of give the public your thoughts a little bit on wide receiver versus tackle. Is your thought still the same as it was before?
Well, I think that we probably need to preface it with the fact that they have 2 quarterbacks in their, quarterback room that are both probably capable starters in the league. Moving off of Kenny Pickett was probably the best thing that the front office could do, and it was Kenny's fault that they did it. So
Yes.
I think that was just you have to start there. Me personally, both of their quarterbacks can move pretty well. They both have the ability to scramble. Yes, they need left tackle. It's a somewhat deep tackle class compared to normal. I like wide receiver. Personally, I think Brian Thomas should not be here. That's my thing too, is that I think he's, going to go higher than this, first of all. And whether that be Jacksonville, whether that be Cincinnati, whoever, I think he could go higher than this. And him being at 20 is probably somebody that they want to go get.
Let me put it this way. If you had to ask me right now who I thought was the biggest surprise, quote unquote, lottery pick, like top 14 pick that just kind of comes out of nowhere to that we had nowhere close before to be selected in that range.
What year?
This year.
Oh, this year.
Yeah, this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you had to pick one guy, that the Jahmyr Gibbs of last year, where we had late first round all draft, we never thought it would be close to, and then all of a sudden he's the 12th pick. I think Brian Thomas is a very interesting option on being a top 13, 14 pick.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's all that crazy to say. If he did fall to 20, I think that it would be a home run, because Pittsburgh does draft receiver really well, and it's an obvious need. The only thing is, I don't know in terms of the fit how it would work.
Right, that was my thing too.
It's a complete different quarterback style of play with the scrambling quarterback. With Russ, like you said, he moves for now. He's more of an improviser. He's not a scrambler.
Right.
Justin Fields is more of like my first read's not open. I'm either holding the ball or I'm tucking.
Yeah.
And who knows if he can improve on that. Brian Thomas, he's a guy that thrived with Jaden Daniels, just standing back in the pocket despite being able to run. But he was so super productive in a large part.
Yeah, 17 touchdowns, the most in the nation this year.
Exactly. So
I think my only thing that worries me is the fact that he's going to be opposite George Pickens, who's a similar-esque player to him. But I guess they just need to find a slot that can catch the ball. All of a sudden, it's like who can they?
Always kind of seem like they do. I mean, Calvin Austin was one of the guys. I believe he was 2 drafts ago that everybody loved as a mid-round steal, and we haven't really seen too much. But he hasn't had the opportunities or snaps for it.
Right.
So who knows if he can jump into that? But they've always had great slot play.
Well, I also think the reason tackle doesn't make as much sense to me is that there are so many opinions on how tackle falls here, right? So you have Amarius Mims, you have J.C. Latham, you have Tyler Guyton, all these guys, and you don't really have anybody consistent with how they rank them. And I think that that's a thing too, is like how maybe, do the Steelers have certain guys higher and those guys are off the board at that point? Okay, Brian Thomas is a steal. Let's just go with the best player available type of thing and run with it. So that's kind of how I feel about that too. Let's jump over to Miami. Miami go Graham Barton in both drafts. Interior offensive line, just lost Robert Hunt. Connor Williams. Also.
Yeah, there's possibility it might be like he's concerned it might be a career-ending injury.
Right.
Regardless, he won't be back. He's a free agent.
Yeah.
Lost multiple interior linemen. A lot of the defensive spots that they lost, they addressed in free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting what route they go. They have multiple spots that they can attack here. I wouldn't complain one bit about
No,
Graham Goucher.
absolutely not. So, and then jump into the Eagles. Both have Nate Wiggins, fastest 40 corner. They need a corner.
Third best need.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it makes all the sense in the world. I don't remember who we put at the top of my head in our first mock, but it was obviously
I think it was Quinion Mitchell.
Quinion Mitchell. Okay,
I think
he
so.
won't be there. Nate Wiggins makes a lot of sense. He's a good cover man corner. He, like I said, the biggest concern after his performance was that he was 173. He bulked all the way up to 186 for the pro day, killed that buzz, and so he's top 2 corner in this class. Just remains to be seen if he'll be here. Very well could, and if he does, it would be a good pick for them.
Right. Next, Minnesota Vikings. In Mel Kiper's side, they go Cooper DeJean. They get a cornerback out of Iowa, and then the trade that originally had happened earlier, Brian Thomas Jr. falls to the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think he'll be here. I don't think he should even really be considered a past the 20 point in this draft. So
it's a need for both teams, but I don't feel like talking about it a ton because I don't think either team is taking at 23.
Yeah.
I don't think either player will be available for either team at any range in the draft. Other than, I guess, if Brian Thomas fell to 27 for the Arizona, but he won't be there.
Maybe,
so,
yeah.
I like the fits if that happened, but it just won't happen to me. But moving on, Dallas, obviously a tackle need with Tyron going to the Jets. Tyler Guyton, obviously everybody is plugging a tackle, just easy pick. I don't think that it's as easy as just because Tyler Smith they drafted to be the future tackle, and he started at a guard. But I think that they want to give him a chance to play that spot, and then there's not be like, okay, you were still an All-Pro guard,
go back,
kick you back inside, and then we'll figure out who's going to be here.
Right.
I think of the two, Jackson Powers Johnson makes way more sense. And to me, one thing that didn't make sense was that a lot of people Jackson Powers Johnson reminds a lot of Travis Frederick when Dallas took him at 31 back in 2013. The difference was that when they picked him at 31, that was a trade back from 16.
Right.
And 2, everybody thought that was a reach at the time. He had a 3rd round grade on multiple people, and I remember seeing like D+ and C- for grades. An instantly impact player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I guess if you want to consider that trait, sure. But Jackson Powers Johnson from the jump has been a 1st round projected player. So, in the respect of like picking need in terms of where the prospect ranks, this would be an ideal scenario for them.
My biggest thing is we're over here, talking about Jackson Powers Johnson, and he is the 3rd interior offensive lineman picked off the board when the other 2 guys are both tackles at this point in their careers. Never played a snap on interior and haven't graded out the same way. Jackson Powers Johnson has basically been perfect. I think I'm not 0.002% of his snaps were pressures. Think about that.
That's crazy.
That's nothing. Basically none.
let me ask you this. In terms of like positions.
Okay.
The gap from the top to the second best, other than tight end with Brock Bowers, would it be fair to say Jackson Powers Johnson is that big of a gap between him and the next interior lineman? Considering obviously Graham Barton and Troy Fontenot, they're projected offensive interior linemen, but they haven't played there, so it's a gamble.
Yeah, I would say as true interior offensive lineman, there's no one even close. It's night and day. You probably won't see another interior offensive lineman till the middle of the 2nd round. And Jackson Powers Johnson killed his pro day, killed Senior Bowl. Just 0.002 pressure rate during the season. Mm-hmm. It's so far ahead. He's so young too is another thing that you can't overlook, that he just has so much time. He's never been injured. I mean, there's just so many good things to say.
Right.
So the fact that we're talking about him going at 24 to the Dallas Cowboys is just a steal to me.
Yeah, and with Dallas, we've given them a lot of flack for not being aggressive in free agency.
Right.
And the reason is because they've been one of the best teams at drafting their roster. And if they were to make this selection, it would, to me, kill like any kind of, I guess, criticism.
Right.
Because it's like they by far picked the best available player at a top need, and it's just a pretty ugly way of just getting better.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But there would need to be a lot more after the losses that they had. But it would be a fantastic step, and I would be very happy as a fan with this selection.
Dallas is one of the best teams that I've ever seen at picking offensive linemen. Just like constantly picking
for 30 years.
Line. Yeah. I mean, top to bottom, no one it comes close to me, and like has come close. And yeah, we talk about how they reach on guys that are probably better than where they got picked at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this would be a killer pick for them. Do I think that this will happen? No, I think he'll probably be a Miami Dolphin or something like that. Or maybe he goes to, well, no, they actually just signed 2 guards, so he won't be going to the Rams. Let me think. That was who I thought originally. Yeah. Seattle Seahawks. Maybe the Seahawks. Or something like that. But yeah, this is a killer pick for them. I would just expect something else to happen at the end of the day.
And then with Tyler Guyton, give me a little tidbit on him. I think this would be the last or the lowest of the 2 where he's going. Tyler Guyton, I've seen a lot of mock into Dallas. I don't agree with it, but in terms of the player, is this a solid range for him?
I don't think Dallas is gonna pick a project tackle. I don't think that makes sense. They're gonna, and he's a right tackle. He's not gonna go to left.
Yes.
It
doesn't make any sense.
None. 0 sense to me.
Dallas.
Dallas,
right? But the range from 20 to 24.
Oh yeah, he fits 26. In this range for sure. Yes. But he's a project offensive tackle. He was a Patrick Paul, who is a top 50 guy, first team all conference, Big 12. Tyler Guyton, honorable mention, Big 12.
Yeah.
He just hasn't gotten there yet. He hasn't played the position long enough. He played D tackle before this. He played tight end before this. He just hasn't played the position long enough. And so, it shows at times. His athleticism is insane. His arm length is insane. The dude's huge. He's learning, and he's natural, but it's not there yet. And I don't think Dallas will do it.
My second least favorite thing, because I kind of looked at what I liked the most and the least about each draft mock. My second least favorite thing, and we'll talk about our first in a little bit.
Okay.
Is why is Tyler Guyton in front of Marius Mims? Yes. It doesn't make any sense.
Does not.
The athleticism, not even close. The production, even bigger gap. It just
injuries is the only thing that they can point at that makes that an option. Mm-hmm. And I just don't.
Both. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Marius Mims mostly right tackle work, right? So, I don't think either project to be a left tackle. Again, Dallas is not taking Tyler Guyton. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, Marius Mims, if you're just like 2 right tackles on the board, who are you picking? Like, to me, it's not even a discussion.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, like you have a 10-minute clock. Like it won't even take 30 seconds to set the card. And that's to write it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeremiah at 25 has Green Bay picking Marius Mims, I guess, to replace David Bakhtiari. I guess it's not really replacing. He hasn't played that much. He's still injured. I don't know what's going to happen with David Bakhtiari, but Marius Mims is Green Bay Packer. And then I think one of the biggest steals of the draft is Laiatu Latu going at 25. If that happens, I mean, that's just too late. He's just too ready to play now. That just boosts their defense so much, along with Rashawn Gary and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think that would be a steal in this draft.
I think with Green Bay, they're really young still. But offensively, other than tackle, they're pretty set. So, tackle or best available defensive player is kind of where it's going to be. And to me, it's kind of predicated on, I think that they're a team that is just going to eat popcorn and watch all the teams trade around them.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just going to
Get
see
best
what
player.
falls.
Yeah.
And, maybe they trade back. Who knows? But I don't think that they will. They'll just sit put and pick who falls in their lap. And, both of those two guys, I will tell you, will be in our top 20 in our mock.
Yeah.
So
most likely, yeah.
Probably.
It would be very close, if not.
Yeah. So that our Packer friends would be very happy with either player.
Oh, yeah.
I would say. So.
And I think a guy that misses out here, just because of the fact that they have no tackles, is Cooper DeJean.
Mm-hmm.
Cooper DeJean is not Daniel Jeremiah's favorite. His big board has never been kind to him,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a guy that would make a lot of sense going here to be opposite Jair Alexander. So just putting his name out there. We'll talk about him in a second.
Yeah,
of course,
he was in our 1.0. That was where we had him slotted in Green Bay at 25. So moving on to 26, Tampa Bay. At this point, all respect to Mel Kiper, I think he's playing a little bit of a guessing game with the rest of his.
He loves the combine. He understands that it vaults people,
mm-hmm.
and the combine here has just got Mel Kiper twisted up.
Yeah.
It's okay. It happens.
It is what it is. To me, receiver is the only spot that is not a weakness, a true weakness for Tampa Bay. Obviously, they're not going to be a quarterback selection here, but they lost too much on their front seven.
Yeah,
and on top of that, they just traded away Carlton Davis. They need everything but safety and receiver.
Yep.
And fortunately, safety, no one's worthy of coming here, and so
unless you decided that Cooper DeJean was a safety all of a sudden, which is fine, but I don't think that's doing him justice.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think we'll have to go through our mock and see what falls.
There's another Texas receiver that didn't get picked here, and that also kind of blows me away that guy Xavier Worthy goes over Adonai Mitchell. But it is what it is. On the other side, Jeremiah goes Darius Robinson. We had him on our interior defensive line rankings because everybody wants to call him an edge. He ran a 4.95. Then people start talking about him as an interior defensive lineman. He weighed 285, 6'5", 285, could play interior defensive lineman also. He gives them versatility, is what I think that this pick makes. The reason it makes sense is because he gives them so much versatility on the defense with the front seven. So many holes. No Shaq Barrett. Devin White's gone. Just giving them a piece.
Yeah, I did.
This
think
is probably
it was
too high.
Interesting. Because, like you said, because of the performance, a lot of people are trying to kick him inside and considering him a defensive lineman. So him going in front of Byron Murphy, who a lot of people have started to put as
and Jerzon.
First, yeah, and Jerzon I was about to say as well.
Yeah.
It's a little surprising to see Darius Robinson there. Again, they're kind of a little bit of a wild card because they do have a ton of needs. We'll just kind of see what happens. But Daniel Jeremiah really just kind of just said boom, boom, boom with their his defensive lineman. Again, I don't. I'd have to look at his prospect rankings because I don't think he put up an updated one after the combine.
Right.
So I don't know how he ranks these guys, but this could be somebody that he's well sourced. He could be saying that Tampa Bay has a lot of talks with Darius. So
right.
And then Mel Kiper having Chop at 27 to the Cardinals. This is the Texans pick that they received in the trade last year. And then Byron Murphy, obviously, we just mentioned him to the Cardinals as well. Who would be your more ideal fit for our buddy Dustin?
I think Chop Robinson makes more sense. Just because I think, they need edge rushers. They need pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Chop can stand up. He's very athletic. Dude is so athletic. It's crazy. Ran a 4.49 at the combine, or 4.48, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Speed, power. He just lacks a lot of moves. Chop Robinson could be the number one edge in this draft, based on his athleticism and abilities, natural abilities. He just has so many issues with his hands and other things that he needs to work on. but it wouldn't surprise me if he was the biggest bust of this draft
Exactly. That's where I was
or
going to go.
the highest at best edge rusher in the draft. Also,
one of the biggest kind of red flags to me is when you are extremely athletic. That's sexy to look at, but when you over rely on that,
yeah,
and you don't kind of refine your game to get any kind of moves, it's kind of like, well, there's going to be much more athletic tackles that you're going to be rushing against,
yeah,
much stronger ones that you won't be able to get past, and when they get their hands on you, you're dead meat. And so, with that being said, when I've kind of looked into Chop, that's kind of one of the concerns I have. But I do agree that I think edge is probably a better position to address
right.
here for
Fit
Arizona.
wise too.
Yeah. So, and then with Buffalo, to me, it's still it's incomplete on what exactly they'll do. Like we said previously, they did lose a lot of defensive core, but they did re-sign some defensive linemen back. So I was a little surprised that Daniel Jeremiah had them going with Jerzon Newton here. However, I don't know if TJ Tampa's the answer either. What say you?
Well, I believe that means that Kool-Aid McKinstry got jumped by TJ Tampa. Kool-Aid did run a 4.47 today in his combine or in his pro day with a broken foot.
Yeah,
very impressive. Kind of x'd out the issues that are on his tape with long speed and stuff. So I don't know that TJ Tampa should be above him. Competitor-esque style too is Kool-Aid is a competitor. TJ lacks a little bit of that. That scares me. But yeah, I mean they could use a cornerback. You know, Tre'Davious White's gone. And they could revamp there. They have in the past over and over. But I don't know that it's CJ Tampa. Jerzon Newton, I think he's a great player. I think that this wouldn't be the worst pick in the world based on, ability. Just I don't know that it's the position of need. So I'm with you, completely with you. Detroit goes. So I really think that Mel Kiper likes the name Xavier or something because there are some players that are not being picked. So
like I said, I think he studied for the quiz, but he didn't stay for the test. Like
yeah.
The back end of the first round was really rough to me on his end. And Xavier Legette is one of the few receivers that did not stand out at the combine
or at the Senior Bowl.
Or at the Senior Bowl, and he might have dropped more than any other receiver in our rankings that we'll release in a short time. He hasn't done anything to be a first round receiver.
No,
I don't even know if he was prior to the combine, and he definitely has dropped since then. So what is the reason behind putting him here? Detroit, obviously, it would be more ideal if they had a better receiver.
Yeah, add a receiver for sure.
Since Jameson Williams, I'm not sure if he'll ever develop into being
right
what they picked him to be. However, it ain't Xavier.
Adonai Mitchell.
If it's AD Mitchell,
Ladd McConkey. Yeah. guys, there's some studs.
Detroit has no true glaring needs right now.
Yeah.
They have one of the most complete rosters, and at late in the point of the season, depending on how San Fran turns out, they may have the better playing overall roster. So I think because corner was such a sore mark, it's more ideal to go corner.
Yeah.
However, I'm not going to judge them if they did go receiver here, or if they are the one that shockingly trades for a Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
Or something with
T. Higgins.
If they did that, it makes all sense in the world. They have cap space, all that.
Yeah, why not?
Xavier Worthy is one that I would really kind of question if that was the figure.
Yeah, well, Xavier Legette, he has not performed more than 1 year. His last year, redshirt senior, or his fifth year, senior year, was his only year where he was impressive. Before that, he was just a guy on special teams, getting, that kind of thing. One good year. Spencer Rattler was the quarterback. I just don't know because we expected him to be 6'3.5". That was what they said. 6'3". He's a 6'3" guy. Came in at 6'1". Okay, that's not good. Didn't run sub 4.4 like he was talking about. Didn't do some of these things, and I'm like, I don't understand how he's here when all these other guys vaulted themselves up.
I actually now looking back on it, I might have even misspoke about my least favorite movie because
This is pretty rough.
it's a rough one.
But I think I'm agreeing with you that this is not my least favorite.
It might not be the worst one.
It's not the worst. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So, let's quickly go to Baltimore. Two very different directions. Two very, very solid bits.
This is steals. Back-to-back steals.
Back-to-back steals. Marius Mims should not be past 20. Cooper DeJean might be in this range because of injury. However, we'll see what happens. But obviously, they lost Morgan Moses. They need to address right tackle and corner. They used to have one of the strongest cornerback rooms, and now it's really Marlon Humphrey and the rest.
Right.
Obviously, they have good safety play, but Cooper DeJean would definitely bolster their secondary.
I think personally, like, they love getting guys that are so versatile. Kyle Hamilton can play outside linebacker, can play deep high safety. Marlon Humphreys moves around. Cooper DeJean, same thing. Would be able to do a little bit of everything. And they're all good in the run. And that's the big thing in Baltimore is they can stop the run. They play teams that love running the ball. Pittsburgh, Cleveland, like those guys that and they have guys in the back end at safety, Geno Stone even, that have been really good against the run.
Right.
And Cooper DeJean would just fit the mold. Not necessarily sure if he's a Raven, but if he's in this area, I love that fit.
Yeah, and I will say that with Baltimore, that's been one of I guess the most popular teams of, like, if you ask yourself of the 32 teams who got the best after free agency so far, a lot of people put them at the top. And I actually think that they're probably not even in the top 5.
Okay.
They did love the value signing, and they are the best team for Derrick Henry. Get that. But they also lost about 5-6 starters, and they didn't really address any of them yet.
Right.
So we'll see what they do with those spots. They do need to get better. I think that they're just as good as they were last year, and right now that's not enough. So they need to get better in both of those spots. They would upgrade
for
at
sure.
either spot.
Oh yeah. Okay. So here's the pick that you're talking about.
It's the one, guys. It's the one.
So Mel Kiper, like I said before, he just loves the combine. He put the fastest offensive tackle at the combine in the first round. So Roger Rosengarten, Washington offensive tackle, opposite Troy Fontenot, goes to the 49ers. I don't understand, but yeah.
I mean, I have to give you more of the reins on this one because we, in our prospect rankings, I looked at or asked you where our sheet was. I was trying to find it at 6:30 in the morning when I saw that mock come out because I want to know, is he even in our top 10? And no, he was not.
He's not.
So
he is not in our top 10. He's not even on the honorable mentions.
Yeah,
so
I don't get it at all. We're not going to do a second round mock, but I don't even know if we put him in there either.
I don't think so, personally. I think this is just Mel Kiper enjoying the draft process, hopefully. And he's just like, hey, I'm going to put a name out there that everybody can think about. Because he does that a little bit sometimes. I just don't understand it. I guess maybe it's like West Coast, both from that area. He, Rosengarten probably should have waited another year to come out because this tackle class is so deep. He could have been, he wouldn't, at this point, he would not be a first rounder next year. But if he would have stayed, he could have gotten better and possibly been a first rounder.
Right.
But I don't see any possible way he's in the first round of this draft. There's no way to me. It's too deep. Too many good players. Wide receiver is too deep here. It's just I don't understand. I just don't get it, and that's okay. I mean, it's not my job to. He gets paid a lot more money than I do to do this. So
I will just leave it off by saying I hope that's not the pick in his final mock because that would just be even more insane to me. I think right now, like you said, he likes to stir up the pot a little bit, and on the back end, he did a lot of makes no sense, but like
made people look.
Xavier Legette really still a fringe first rounder? Or Roger Rosengarten, is he really going to be a Cole Strange-esque,
No,
like, just out
absolutely
of
not.
nowhere?
Absolutely not.
You better hope he isn't, because you're not going to get a high grade from us when we review the draft. So,
Well, if they go with him at 31, which I won't expect them to because they do a great job drafting, except for quarterback. Just saying. Seventh round quarterback doesn't count anybody. That's just a dart throw. That's like luck.
Yes.
But I'm talking about early round quarterbacks. They're terrible at everything else. Pretty solid. So, I don't know what I would say if this was the pick on draft day.
I think we'll see with San Fran. They're another overall right now. If we rank the top rosters in football, they're still number one.
Yeah.
So they don't have main needs at all. However, the spot where they lost the most was defensive end / edge.
Yeah.
However, they addressed it with a couple of former first round picks that may or may not work out. But I think that that's kind of what they're going with this year. So I don't really agree with edge here, but I mean, it's not like if Chop goes there, he's gonna.
Oh yeah, that would help them, right? I mean, but my biggest thing is I'm cool with offensive tackle here. We had offensive tackle in our first draft. Jordan Morgan, Arizona. Much more comfortable with him than Rosengarten. Maybe he's not a first round pick. That's fine, but at the same time, he is much more of a first round pick than Rosengarten is. There's other tackles that you could, make a case for.
And I will say another thing that we feel pretty good about the 6 quarterbacks going in the first right now. I'm not so certain that Penix is going to be in the top 20 anymore. So with that being said, that doesn't mean that he's going to slide out of the first.
Right.
But I think this is a spot where if somebody like the Raiders, who are mid-second rounder, that are just like, we're going to give up some to move into the first to have the fifth-year option, because that's what you like to do at quarterback. This is a spot for that kind of situation.
We were ahead on Bo Nix being above Penix. And so now I think it's seen more, but Daniel Jeremiah still has him at 13. I mean, truly, it's a wild card which guy's fifth to me. But the 6th guy, I'm expecting, and we've talked about this before, to be a late round trade, and somebody will take him late in the first round for the 5th year option and things like that.
I mean, the one team that needs a quarterback that won't be in the trade market to trade up is obviously Denver, because they don't have a second round pick.
Right.
But other than that, it's free game. So maybe Atlanta. I know that they just signed Kurt. It's a 4-year deal, early out in 2 years. Maybe they want to have a backup secure plan.
Right.
Maybe, like I said, the Raiders haven't addressed other than bringing in Minshew. That would probably be my ideal situation. But this is, like I said, this area, I'm not confident that San Fran is going to make the 31st pick.
Right.
Is basically what I was getting at.
Also, I could see a situation where, you get to 11, and at 11, the Raiders jump ahead of the Broncos for their guy, whoever it is.
Fair.
Because the Broncos can't move up. Even if they want to move up one spot, it's like, well, I give you a first and a third. Well, the Raiders could be like, hey, we'll give you a first and a second.
We can't draft anyway. Here's
take them all. We're great in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, but everywhere else. But so let's roll this. Let's finish this one out. I think this is the best way to finish it too.
Exactly.
It's probably a considered steal at this point in the draft process, especially if you're going to go Legette and Worthy above them. Adonai Mitchell, AD Mitchell, Kansas City Chiefs. Makes a lot of sense. Yes, Marquise Brown is there. I'm sure we're going to hear a little bit about that, but he's on a 1-year prove-it deal. You need a guy that's, I mean, I make this reference a lot, but Rashee Rice was not considered a top 3 round or top 2 round guy, truly. He was a 3rd round pick, I believe.
He was late second.
Late second, okay.
He was a 64th.
Okay, exactly. Yeah. So basically, a late second, early 3rd round pick, not just some electric guy, but he fell into targets. If you actually get a guy that's a first round talent in AD Mitchell or Ladd McConkey or somebody else, even there's just a couple guys that would be so much fun. But I think then you probably have your true wide receiver 1, and then Rashee Rice probably falls into the role of wide receiver 2, like he is built to be. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I think this goes.
Yeah, I mean, in our pre-combine mock, we had Xavier Worthy going to Kansas City.
Oh, we had Troy Franklin.
Troy Franklin.
Yeah, because we had talked about
were close.
Yeah, it was one or the other.
But that style of receiver is what we were kind of looking at. I think that has kind of changed because they have gone into Marquise Brown, and so he's the guy that's going to be this short bubble screens and gadget guy, and trying to fill in what they tried to fill with McCole Hardman or Darius Tony.
Yeah.
So I don't think with that, and then also Cole is probably going to be on the roster after winning the Super Bowl.
Basically one catch over 3 games.
Kadarius Toney, I don't know if he will or not, but regardless, he probably will by default, at least early on. So they don't really have the possession receiver. So why not go get that guy? He's the best available. Probably shouldn't be here. Like you said, we'll probably have him a little higher than this. I think this is the style of receiver that they would target now.
Right.
However, I'm not as confident anymore in saying that the first pick is just a pencil it in right now receiver, just best available receiver. I think that picking up Marquise Brown kind of opens them up that if they wanted to go a different direction, they could. They've gone before doing weird stuff.
What would the direction be to you, considering? Well, and also I want to preface with the fact that Patrick Mahomes just took the pay cut, or the restructure gave them $21.6 million, enough to pay L'Jarius Sneed. They don't have to let him go. So
they don't have to, but what if there's an offer they can't refuse?
Absolutely.
Hypothetically, Cooler McKinstry's right there. If they wanted to reach on a linebacker, they obviously have a need.
Peyton Wilson,
or Edgerrin Cooper, who tested out of the water as well. So there's needs there. Tackle wasn't great play last year either. They did address it, and like I told you in last year's offseason, Juwan Taylor was my least favorite signing, and he led the league in penalties.
Yeah.
So he is not for long there. That doesn't mean that they're going to move on from him this year, but there's going to be a right tackle here in this range also. Like I said, I think it's not a for sure certainty. Their glaring need is receiver, yes. But because they are in the mindset of we had crappy receiving cores or below average receiving cores for 2 straight years and won the Super Bowl. That's not how we won. That's not our identity.
Right.
So it's not an urgent thing to address immediately. We'll just kind of see what happens. It's probably a receiver in our eyes.
I'm most confident in receiver, but
I'm less confident that it was receiver than I was before.
Right. It's not the Bears where we talked about 4 positions. It's just where it's like receiver and then other positions, right?
I think others have now risen in the if you have a pie chart of possibility, what position you target. I'd say probably now it's down to like 60 to 70% instead of 90 where we had it earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was our first ever Mock the Mock. That was a lot of fun. I love talking about other people's mock drafts and kind of dissecting them, because not only does it give us ideas of what we're going to do and kind of why is Roger Rosengarten there kind of thing, but also just kind of gives us it's a fun activity to do, and it all of these analysts and everybody, they're not going to be right on every pick. Daniel Jeremiah's has trades, Mel Kiper's doesn't. Well, Mel Kiper, there's going to be trades, so Mel Kiper can't get it all right. That's just what it is. But I really enjoy doing the mock mocks.
Absolutely,
series for sure.
It's definitely not going to be our only edition of it. Process. Obviously, they have probably 1 to even 2 more mocks to come out with, and we might do the same exact 2 because they're the most notable names. We also like Bucky Brooks, Matt Miller. Our other good analysts. We could be talking about them. Lance Zierlein is another that comes
Field
to mind.
Yates is doing his now.
Field Yates is coming out with his. Everybody's got mocks, and everybody likes to do it. It's fun to talk about. It's
for sure.
Emory's favorite part of the NFL is the draft process. So, we're definitely not done doing this. Let us know what you guys think. Mel Kiper, obviously a big name. Daniel Jeremiah, not as well known, but to me is the best in the business.
Hmm.
What are some of your favorite picks of them? Do you agree with some of our analysis of their and breakdown of their picks? What did you agree or disagree with? Um, would you be excited of any of their moves? Obviously, we have some friends that are heavily influenced in
Right.
this with the moves that take place. So yeah, comment down below, like, subscribe, watch all of our positional videos that we're continuing to come down. We're going to be knocking all of them out pretty soon, so it will all be out before the end of March.
Yeah.
And our second mock will be probably shooting next week,
Around then.
and
Yeah.
either early the following week or late at the end of next week will be our March one.
Yeah. Yeah. Go check out our other socials. Join the Discord. Get in on everything else too. We really appreciate y'all and joining and building this community. That's what we want to do and do it the right way. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
appreciate y'all. Y'all salute.